Yes, anyone who can tell about the theme? We have already discussed first chapter, the lost child. Please raise your hand who wants to tell. What is the idea which the writer has taken in this story, the lost child? Please raise your hands. No one? Arpit Joshi? Arpit Joshi?
Yes, ma'am.
What is the idea which the writer wants to convey in this story, The Lost Child? We have already discussed.
Mm,
Oh,
no.
anyone else? No one knows? Very good. Gurasis, Gurasis Kaur, Chahat.
Ma'am, it is about a lost child.
Hmm.
He went in a fair with his parents,
Yes,
and his mother. He was uh,
yes.
excited for the toys, and her mother was not buying her toys, and she was guiding him to not get lost and be with her.
Okay. What is the idea conveyed? This is about the summary or the story you are telling, what we have read. Hiteshri Beta, yes.
Ma'am, this shows that when the child was with his parents, he was excited for the toys and the sweets. But when the parents were not with him and he was alone, although he was getting all those things, he denied to get those things. This shows that there was no love and affection. This means that without his parents, he didn't choose to get those sweets alone.
Yes. The idea conveyed through the story is that when the child or when we are along with our parents, we feel ourselves secure. Though he was being denied by his parents everything, whatever he asked, whatever he demanded in the fair about the toys, about swings, about sweets, he was denied everything. But he did not feel bad, though he cried in between also. But when he was all alone, he was lost in the fair, and someone else, some stranger, offered him each and everything, whatever he demanded in the beginning, but he denied to take anything. He only wanted his parents. He was again and again crying, I want my mother, I want my father. So this shows the feeling of love and attachment of the parents for the child. And on the other way, the child also has the same feelings. And he lost interest in everything when he was alone. He was not having his parents along with him. That gives him security. The idea is that the company of the parents gives him security. And when he lost his parents, he was all alone. He did not feel that security. सेफ नहीं समझता था, अपनी सिक्योरिटी नहीं ठीक लग रही थी उसको, so he was not willing to have anything. He just denied everything whatever was offered to him, though all the same things were offered by some stranger, as we will read in the story, but he denied each and everything. So it tells us about the company of the parents, or the help or the parents with which we feel secure ourselves. Clear? This is the idea conveyed through this story. Now let's continue with the story. We have seen that the child was asking for toys, then he stopped in between the fields to catch the butterfly also. So in this way, he was being attracted by many things again and again, and he was left behind every time. The parents just called him, come beta, come. And when he joined them, Once again he was left behind. And we have seen that the child had reached he was trying to catch the butterflies or the dragonflies of different colors which were roaming here and there on the flowers. So he was again left behind, and the mother just called her, giving a cautionary call, "Come, child, come on to the footpath." We have reached to this point. This is on page number 2, ending third paragraph, third, fourth. He ran towards his parents gaily and walked abreast of them for a while, being, however, soon left behind, attracted by the little insects and the worms along the footpath that were teeming out from their hiding places to enjoy the sunshine. We have read this part also, that once he was again left behind, and the mother called him, and he started going along with the parents, abreast means side by side with the parents. And once again he was left behind because he was attracted by the insects and the worms that were coming on the way along the footpath, and the area or the footpath was full of these insects which were coming out of their hiding places to enjoy the sunshine because it was the spring season now. "Come, child, come," his parents called from the shade of a grove where they had seated themselves on the edge of a well. He ran towards them. We have reached to this line when the meeting came to an end, that the parents again called him, and they were sitting under the shade of a grove, that was group of trees, where they were seated and they were having their रेस्ट ऑन द एज ऑफ द वेल। एक कुएं के किनारे के ऊपर पेड़ों का झुंड था जहां पर कि वो बैठ जाते हैं। एंड दे कॉल्ड द चाइल्ड, ही रैन टुवर्ड्स देम, वो भागता हुआ पेरेंट्स की तरफ आता है। A shower of young flowers fell upon the child as he entered the grove, and forgetting his parents, he began to gather the raining petals in his hands. और एक बार फिर से वो नेचर की चीज़ों के लिए एक्साइटेड हो जाता है, and he forgot about his parents. Shower of young flowers fell upon the child. जैसे ही वो पेड़ों के झुंड के नीचे पहुंचता है पेरेंट्स के पास, तो उसके ऊपर फूलों की पत्तियां एकदम से, नए फूल जो खिले हुए थे, यंग फ्लावर्स हियर मींस न्यू plants with new flowers that had come on the plants, that fell upon the child as if they were welcoming him when he was entering under that group of trees under the grove. And he forgot about his parents and began to gather the raining petals in his hands. उन petals means उन फूलों की पत्तियों को जो कि बारिश की तरह उसके ऊपर गिर रही थी, he started collecting those petals in his hands, अपने हाथ नीचे करके उन पत्तियों को इकट्ठा करने लगा। But lo, he heard the cooing of doves and ran towards his parents. और तभी इसको क्या आवाज सुनाई देती है? He heard the cooing of doves. Doves क्या होती है? बत्तखें, ducks जो होती हैं, उनकी आवाज जो थी, cooing sound उसने सुनी, and he started moving toward his parents, shouting, "The dove, the dove!" The raining petals dropped from his forgotten hands. और जैसे ही वो अपने पेरेंट्स को एक्साइटेड होकर बता रहा है अबाउट द डव, तो क्या देखता है? उसके हाथों से फूलों की पत्तियां जो हैं वो गिर जाती हैं, बिकॉज ही फॉरगॉट अबाउट दोज फ्लावर्स विच वर इन हिज हैंड्स। सी, अगेन एंड अगेन द चाइल्ड इज बीइंग एक्साइटेड बाय द न्यू थिंग एंड ही फॉरगॉट अबाउट द प्रीवियस वन। पिछली चीज उसको भूल जाती है और नई चीज के लिए वो एक्साइटेड होकर देखना शुरू कर देता है। "Come, child, come," they called to the child, who had now gone running in wild capers round the banyan tree, and gathering him up, they looked the narrow, winding footpath which led to the fair through the mustard fields. वो फिर से बच्चे को आवाज देते हैं, "Come, child, come," and the child, who had now gone running in wild capers, केपर्स मीन्स जो जंगल के बीच में बेलें से बनी होती है ना, और राउंड द बनियन ट्री, बनियन ट्री के आसपास बड़ का वृक्ष था, उसके आसपास वाइल्ड केपर्स, बेल सी जैसे ऊपर को चढ़ी हुई थी। एंड गैदरिंग हिम, और बच्चे को लेकर, दे टुक द नैरो वाइंडिंग पाथ, कि वहां से वो तंग और छोटी सी जिग जैग सा रास्ता था, वहां से वो चलना शुरू हो जाते हैं, जो कि मस्टर्ड फील्ड के बीच में से होकर फेयर की तरफ जा रहा था। So they started moving with the child to that way. As they neared the village, कि जैसे ही वो उस गांव के पास पहुंचे जहां पर कि मेला था, this is the passage that is being described to you for that fair. The child could see many other footpaths full of throngs converging to the whirlpool of the fair. तो बच्चा वहां से हैरान होकर, एक्साइटेड होकर क्या देख रहा था कि बहुत से रास्ते थे. दिस वाज नॉट ओनली वन पाथ, मेनी फुटपाथ्स वर देयर, फुल ऑफ थ्रॉन्ग्स. थ्रॉन्ग्स मीन्स क्राउड, भीड़ थी लोगों की उसके ऊपर. कन्वर्जिंग टू द वर्लपूल ऑफ द फेयर, और ऐसे लग रहा था कि ये सारे रास्ते जो थे एक वर्लपूल की तरह जिग जैग वे में फेयर की तरफ, मेले की तरफ जा रहे थे. एंड फेल्ट एट वंस रिपेल्ड एंड फैसिनेटेड बाय द confusion of the world he was entering. एंड ही गॉट वेरी मच एक्साइटेड, एकदम से फैसिनेट होते हुए, रिपेल्ड होते हुए वो इस कंफ्यूजन के बारे में सोच रहा था दैट ही इज गोइंग टू एंटर सम न्यू वर्ल्ड. बहुत से लोगों की भीड़ थी, बहुत से रास्ते थे जो कि विलेज की तरफ जा रहे थे जहाँ पर कि फेयर लगा हुआ था. सो ही गॉट वेरी एक्साइटेड टू सी सच अ क्राउड. अ स्वीट मीट सेलर हॉक्ड, और जैसे ही वो वहाँ पर एंटर करते हैं उस रास्ते पे जहाँ पे कि एक्चुअली मेला स्टार्ट हो रहा था, स्वीट मीट सेलर हॉट, एक स्वीट मीट सेलर था, मिठाई की दुकान थी जो कि आवाज़ें लगा लगा कर चीज़ें अपनी बेच रहा है, गुलाब जामुन, रसगुल्ला, बर्फी, जलेबी, at the corner of the entrance. And a crowd pressed round his counter at the foot of an architecture of many colored sweets decorated with leaves of silver and gold. And as you see sometimes in the fair or near the Diwali festival, the decorated sweets with silver and gold cover, उसके ऊपर डेकोरेटेड कवर थे और उसके काउंटर के ऊपर भीड़ लगी हुई थी. What he saw, the child stared open-eyed and his mouth watered for the बर्फी. बड़ा घूर घूर कर देख रहा है अपनी आंखों से, खुली आंखों से, और उसके मुंह में पानी आ जाता है. एंड ही वांटेड टू हैव हिज फेवरेट स्वीट दैट वाज बर्फी. बर्फी लेना चाहता था. आई वांट दैट बर्फी, ही स्लोली मर्मर्ड. सी ही डज नॉट स्पीक वेरी लाउडली, he just slowly murmured, जैसे धीरे धीरे अपने मुंह में बुदबुदाया कि I want that बर्फी. But he half knew, because he already knew this thing. Half knew means अंदर ही अंदर उसको मन में पता था ये बात कि as he begged that his plea would not be heeded, कि उसकी plea means उसकी request जो है वो उसकी तरफ ध्यान नहीं दिया जाएगा. Would not be heeded means not be taken care, because his parents would say he was greedy. सो विदाउट वेटिंग फॉर एन आंसर ही मूव्ड ऑन. ये सोचते हुए कि उसके पेरेंट्स कहेंगे कि वो ग्रीडी है, उसको पता था कि उसकी डिमांड नहीं पूरी होगी. सो ही मूव्ड ऑन विदाउट वेटिंग फॉर एन आंसर, क्योंकि उसको पता था कि उसके फादर जो है नहीं अलाउ करेंगे. A flower seller hawked. You must note down now what things he is noticing in the fair. First he saw the sweet meat seller, sweets बेचने वाला देखा. Now he saw a flower seller who was also hawking, means ऊंची ऊंची आवाज में आवाजें लगा रहा था. A garland of gulmohar, a garland of gulmohar. The child seemed irresistibly drawn. और एकदम से ऐसा बच्चा जो था आकर्षित हो गया. Irresistibly means he could not control his desire and his fascination. He went towards the basket where the flowers lay heaped and half murmured. फ्लावर की बास्केट के पास पहुंचता जहां पर कि ढेर लगा हुआ था. एंड ही अगेन हाफ मर्मर्ड. हाफ मीन्स मन ही मन में उसको पता था कि उसको नहीं मिलेगा. सो ही वॉज नॉट ओपनली आस्किंग एनीथिंग, बहुत ऊंची आवाज में या पूरे कॉन्फिडेंस के साथ नहीं, वो डरता हुआ बोल रहा था. आई वॉन्ट दैट गार्लैंड. बट ही वेल न्यू that his parents would refuse to buy him those flowers because they would say that they were cheap. फिर से उसको पता था कि उसके पेरेंट्स उसको रिफ्यूज कर देंगे ये कहते हुए कि वो फूल अच्छे नहीं हैं, चीप हैं. So without waiting for an answer, he moved on. Once again, he resisted his desire, he suppressed his desire, and he moved on. A man stood holding a pole with yellow, red, green, purple balloons flying from it. Now, what he saw next, there was a man who was having a pole in his hand, and different colors of balloons were hanging on that pole. The child was simply carried away by the balloon, by the rainbow glory of their silken colors, and he was filled with an overwhelming desire to possess them all. Underline what desire he had now, overwhelming, that cannot be controlled. इतनी ज़्यादा extreme happiness or desire, strong desire उसके mind में आई to look at those rainbow glory of the balloons. He wanted to have that, all those balloons, to possess them all. मतलब वो चाहता था कि उसको सारे balloons मिल जाएं. But he well knew his parents would never buy him balloons because they would say he was too old to play with such toys. Please note down this line, the use of too old, to TOO adverb use किया गया with to infinitive, to play. ठीक है, क्योंकि उसको पता था कि उसके पेरेंट्स नहीं अलाउ करेंगे. दे विल से दैट ही वाज टू ओल्ड टू प्ले विद सच टॉयज, कि वो इतना भी छोटा नहीं है, अब बड़ा हो गया है कि वो ऐसे बैलून्स के साथ, ऐसे खिलौनों के साथ खेलेगा. So he walked on farther. इसलिए वो फिर से आगे बढ़ पड़ा. A snake charmer stood playing a flute to a snake which coiled itself in a basket, its head raised in a graceful bend like the neck of a swan, while the music stole into its invisible ears like the gentle rippling of an invisible waterfall. Then he heard a snake charmer who was playing on his flute कि एक स्नेक चार्मर था, जैसे बास्केट में स्नेक लेकर बैठा हुआ था, दैट वाज कॉइल्ड इटसेल्फ इन ए बास्केट, राउंड होकर, कॉइल्ड मींस राउंड होकर बास्केट के अंदर स्नेक पड़ा हुआ था. इट्स हेड रेज्ड इन अ ग्रेसफुल बैंड लाइक द नेक ऑफ ए स्वैन, स्वैन के नेक की तरह बड़े ग्रेस के साथ वो अपना हेड जो था रेज कर रहा था वहां से बास्केट के बीच में से. while the music stole into its invisible ears like gentle rippling of an invisible waterfall, जैसे कि कोई invisible waterfall हो उसके जैसा पानी गिरने का gentle rippling music जो था, that was created by the flute of the snake charmer. And he was very much fascinated. He got attracted to that music. The child went towards the snake charmer, but knowing his parents had forbidden him to hear such coarse music as the snake charmer played, लेकिन ये जानते हुए कि उसके पेरेंट्स ने ऑलरेडी उसको मना किया हुआ था. फॉरबिडन मीन्स हिज पेरेंट्स हैड फॉरबिडन हिम, means denied to listen or hear such coarse music. उनके accordingly क्या था? It was rough music. Coarse means rough music. As the snake charmer played, he proceeded further. कि snake charmer जो music बजाते हैं वो अच्छा नहीं होता. That is rough music. So he was forbidden by his parents to hear such type of music. And thinking this, he proceeded further. फिर आगे चल पड़ता है. There was a roundabout in full swing. कि आगे क्या देखता है? There was a roundabout, एक झूला था जो कि पूरे जोश के साथ, full swing means full enthusiasm के साथ घूम रहा था. Men, women and children carried away in a whirling motion shrieked and cried with dizzy laughter. कि सारे लोग उसमें, men, women and children, सब लोग वहाँ पे whirling motion means घूमते हुए, roundabout motion में shriek चिल्लाते हुए, खुलकर हंसते हुए, जैसे पागलों की तरह हंस रहे हों, ऐसे वो अपना एंजॉय कर रहे थे ऑन द स्विंग्स. इट हैपेंस व्हेन यू आल्सो गो ऑन द स्विंग समवेयर, you also enjoy like that, shouting and laughing. The child watched them intently and then made a bold request. Now see, this time the child made a bold request. Underline this word, कि कहाँ उसने बहुत strongly और bold request करी? When he looked at the swings and looked very intently, बड़े ध्यान से उसने उस स्विंग को देखा और उसके मन में क्या डिजायर हुई कि वो भी उस झूले में बैठे. और he made a bold request. I want to go on the roundabout. Please, father, mother. और क्या रिक्वेस्ट करता है कि मैं उस राउंड अबाउट में, उस झूले में बैठना चाहता हूँ. And he made a very strong, bold request this time. There was no reply, but he did not get any reply. He turned to look at his parents. Parents की तरफ मुड़ता है देखने के लिए कि उनका क्या response है, because every time he knew that he would be denied and he moved further, just suppressing his desire. But this time he turned to his parents. They were not there ahead of him. लेकिन क्या देखता है? The parents were not there. कहीं कहीं उसके आगे जाते हुए भी उसको नजर नहीं आ रहे थे, जैसे कि most of the time he was lagging behind. पीछे छूट जाता था और पेरेंट्स आगे उसको नजर आ जाते थे और पेरेंट्स भी उसको आवाज दे देते थे. बट दिस टाइम when he looked, he turned to look at his parents. There was no one. He turned to look on either side. They were not there. He looked behind. There was no sign of them. दोनों तरफ देखता है, अपने अपने पीछे की तरफ देखता है, लेकिन उसको कोई भी नजर नहीं आता. A full deep cry rose within his dry throat, and with a sudden jerk of his body, he ran from where he stood, crying in real fear, "Mother, father." Now, see, from here the change comes in the story. It's a turning point of the story, that when he looked that his parents were not there and he wanted to have swings, he made a bold request for the swings. Suddenly what happened? A full deep cry rose within his dry throat. उसके सूखे हुए गले के अंदर बहुत जोर से चिल्लाने की आवाज जो थी, पूरे जैसे गले से जितनी उसकी आवाज निकल सकती थी. He started shouting with a sudden jerk of his body. एकदम से उसके बॉडी को झटका लगा and he started running from that place where he was standing, crying in real fear. डरते हुए, मतलब सच में जैसे उसके मन में अब डर जो था वो पैदा हो गया. And he started shouting for mother, father. Tears rolled down from his eyes, hot and fierce. His flushed face was convulsed with fear. आंखों से उसके आंसू जो थे गिरने लगे. Hot and fierce, his face, flushed face was convulsed with fear. उसका चेहरा जो था वो डर से भरा हुआ था. Panic stricken, he ran to one side first. घबराया हुआ, panic stricken means frightened, बहुत ज़्यादा घबराया हुआ, डरा हुआ. पहले एक तरफ भागता है, then to the other, hither and thither in all directions, इधर उधर सारी directions में भागने की कोशिश करता है. Knowing not where to go, because he did not know where to go. उसको समझ नहीं आ रही थी कि वो क्या करे. He was so confused, so frightened and panic stricken. Mother, father, he wailed. Wailed means shouted, चिल्ला रहा है लगातार. His yellow turban came untied and his clothes became muddy. उसकी turban that was yellow in color because it was a spring festival, spring fair, मेला लगा हुआ था, बसंत का मेला जिसको कहते हैं. So the people were wearing, most of the people were wearing yellow cloths. He was also wearing yellow turban. पगड़ी पहनी हुई थी उसने. दैट केम अनटाइड, क्योंकि वो इधर उधर भाग रहा है घबराहट में और उसकी पगड़ी जो है वो खुल जाती है. एंड हिज क्लॉथ्स बिकेम मडी, रोने से, बार बार आंसू पहुंचने से उसके कपड़े जो हैं वो गंदे हो जाते हैं, मडी. Having run to and fro in a rage of running for a while, he stood defeated. His cries pressed into sobs. इधर उधर भागने के बाद, लगातार इधर उधर भागने से, रोने चिल्लाने से वो थक जाता है. एंड ही स्टूड डिफीटेड, जैसे कि वो हारा हुआ खड़ा था. His cries pressed into sobs. ऊंचे ऊंचे चिल्लाने के बाद, continuously he was shouting, he was crying. ऊंचे ऊंचे चिल्ला रहा था तो उसकी चिल्लाने की आवाज जो है that turned into sobs, सिसकियों में बदल जाती है. When he was not able to shout, उसके गले से आवाज ही नहीं निकल रही थी. At little distances on the green grass, he could see through his filmy eyes men and women talking. कि थोड़ी थोड़ी दूरी तक वो देख पा रहा था, क्योंकि उसकी आंखें जो थी that was not clear visibility now having. So there, through his filmy eyes, filmy धुंधली आंखें थी because there were tears in his eyes, and through those filmy eyes he could see on the grass people sitting and talking to each other. He tried to look intently among the patches of the bright yellow cloths, but there was no sign of his father and mother among these people who seemed to laugh and talk just for the sake of laughing and talking. And when he tried to look into the group of the people who were in bright yellow cloths, he was trying to find out his parents, his mother, father, but there was no sign. And those people were just talking and laughing for the sake of their laughing and talking, that because they had come there to enjoy in the fair. So they were not worried and they were talking and laughing, whereas he was looking his parents. He ran quickly again, this time to a shrine to which people seemed to be crowding. Then suddenly he saw that there was a shrine, there was a temple, religious place थी जहाँ पर कि लोग जा रहे थे. And it was crowded, rush था वहाँ पर, भीड़ लगी हुई थी. He ran quickly to that side. Maybe कि इसके parents जो हैं वो मंदिर में हों, यहाँ temple में मिल जाएं इसको. Every little inch of space here was congested with men. Too much crowded. Every little inch मतलब हर इंच के ऊपर जो भीड़ जो थी, कंजेस्टेड एरिया था, लोग खड़े थे वहां पर. बट ही रैन थ्रू पीपल्स लेग्स. हिज लिटिल सॉब लिंगरिंग, सॉबिंग, उसकी सिसकियों की आवाज जो है वो लटकती हुई आवाज आ रही है और वो लोगों की टांगों के बीच में से निकलता हुआ इधर उधर देख रहा है, घूम रहा है उस भीड़ के अंदर. कॉलिंग फॉर हिज मदर, calling for his father. Near the entrance to the temple, however, the crowd became very thick. और जैसे ही वो टेम्पल की एंट्रेंस तक पहुंचता है, what he noticed that the crowd had become very thick. बहुत ज़्यादा रश, भीड़ ज़्यादा थी. Men jostled each other, heavy men with flashing murderous eyes and hefty shoulders. वहाँ पर लोगों, jostle means pushing each other, धक्के लगा रहे थे एक दूसरे को. And there were some heavy people who were looking at others with the murderous eyes, red eyes के साथ, जैसे कि किसी का कत्ल कर देंगे. Hefty shoulders, that means heavy people were also there, fat people were also there, and they were just jostling with each other. भीड़ की वजह से वहाँ रश के बीच में धक्के लग रहे थे. The poor child struggled to thrust a way between their feet, but knocked to and fro by their brutal movements. The poor child, that means this pitiable child, was struggling to move into the shrine, into the temple, through the feet, through the legs of those people. क्योंकि वो छोटा था तो वो बीच बीच में से निकल कर इधर उधर उनको धकेलता हुआ वो आगे पहुंचा जा रहा था. बाय देयर ब्रूटल मूवमेंट्स, लेकिन लोग उसको भी वो धक्के, ब्रूटल मूवमेंट्स के बीच में धक्के पड़े लोगों के. He might have been trampled underfoot had he not shrieked at the highest pitch of his voice. Note down the use of conditional pattern used here. He might have been trampled underfoot if he had not shrieked. Sentence should be, if we go for the simple, if he had not shrieked. And they have used had in the beginning, so there is no need of if. But it is the same pattern used. Third pattern, had plus third form, past perfect, and the second clause having might have with third form, that is given the passive form. That's why been is used. So what is given here? He might have been trampled underfoot had he not shrieked at the highest pitch of his voice, father, mother. कि अगर वो अपनी फुल वॉल्यूम पे हाईएस्ट पिच के ऊपर नाच चलाता तो शायद वो लोगों के पैरों के नीचे कुचला जाता. और क्या चला रहा था? He was just calling his parents, father, mother. A man in the surging crowd heard his cry and stooping with great difficulty lifted him up in his arms. और क्या हुआ कि उस भीड़ में से एक इंसान, एक आदमी ने उसको, उस उमड़ती हुई भीड़ में से उसकी चिल्लाहट को सुना. एंड स्टूपिंग विद ग्रेट डिफिकल्टी, झुक कर, स्टूपिंग मीन्स बेंडिंग, बड़ी मुश्किल से झुका क्योंकि भीड़ ज्यादा थी और नीचे झुकना भी मुश्किल था. स्टूपिंग विद ग्रेट डिफिकल्टी लिफ्टेड हिम अप इन हिज आर्म्स, उसने क्या किया? उस बच्चे को अपनी बाहों में उठा लिया. How did you get here, child? Whose baby are you? The man asked as he steered clear of the mass. कि जैसे ही भीड़ में से वो उस बच्चे को उठाकर बाहर निकलता है तो he asked him, how did you get here? आप यहाँ कैसे पहुँचे? आप किसके बच्चे हो? The child wept more bitterly than ever now and only cried. बच्चा और जोर जोर से चिल्लाने लगा and then started crying, I want my mother, I want my father. The man tried to soothe him by taking him to the roundabout. अब बच्चा था, उस इंसान ने क्या सोचा? Thinking about just to make him stop crying, कि उसको पहले चुप करवाया जाए. He started taking that child to have a round of the fair, कि उसका ध्यान जो है divert करने के लिए. He just took him to the roundabout. Will you have a ride on the horse? He gently asked as he approached the ring. कि जैसे ही वो झूले के पास पहुंचता उससे पूछा कि you will have ride on the horse. The child's throat tore into 1,000 shrill sobs and he only shouted, I want my mother, I want my father. See the change in the attitude of the child. When he was near the swings, he made a bold request. Looking at the whirling movement of the swings, he wanted to have that swings, or he made a bold request to his parents, but his parents were not there. Now he was being offered to have a ride on the horse in the swings and his throat tore. ऐसे लगा कि उसका गला जैसे था फट गया हो और हजारों ही चीखें सिसकियों के साथ इकट्ठी निकली. And he shouted, I want my mother, I want my father. That means he did not like anything now. कोई भी चीज उसको अब अच्छी नहीं लग रही थी. He only wanted his parents. The man headed towards the place where the snake charmer still played on the flute on the swing cobra. एक बार फिर से वो आदमी उसको बैकग्राउंड फेयर का लगवा रहा है. स्विंग्स के बाद वो कहाँ पहुंच जाते हैं? स्नेक चार्मर के पास, जो कि फ्लूट के ऊपर अच्छा म्यूजिक अपना बजा रहा था. कोबरा उसके ऊपर डांस कर रहा है. लिसन टू दैट नाइस म्यूजिक चाइल्ड, ही प्लीटेड. और उसको रिक्वेस्ट करता है कि उस म्यूजिक को सुनो. इट वॉज ऑल जस्ट टू डाइवर्ट हिज अटेंशन, कि वो रोना बंद करे और इन चीज़ों की तरफ उसका ध्यान जो है अट्रैक्ट हो जाए. बट द चाइल्ड शट हिज ईयर्स विद हिज फिंगर्स and shouted his double pitched strain, I want my mother, I want my father. लेकिन बच्चे ने क्या किया? अपनी कानों के ऊपर हाथ रख लिए, बिकॉज म्यूजिक था सुनने को. तो he did not want to listen that music. He kept his hands and fingers on his ears and he shut his ears and only shouted at his double pitched strain. जितनी भी उसकी आवाज थी उससे डबल आवाज, ऊंची आवाज निकालते हुए he shouted, I want my mother, want my father. The man took him near the balloons, thinking the bright colors of the balloons would distract the child's attention and quieten him. ये सोचते हुए कि बैलून्स का कलर जो है उसको अटेंशन को डिस्ट्रैक्ट करेगा, डाइवर्ट करेगा, and he will be quieten. See, used as a verb. So चुप कर जाएगा. See the spelling QUIETEN. इट इज़ यूज्ड एज अ वर्ब, कि इसको बैलून्स की सुंदरता जो है, वो फैसिनेशन जो है, वो उसको क्वाइट कर देगी. वुड यू लाइक अ रेनबो कलर्ड बैलून? ही परसुएसिवली आस्क्ड. परसुएसिवली मीन्स उसको मनाते हुए, बड़ा ध्यान से उसका अटेंशन अपनी तरफ, मतलब उसको कन्विंस करते हुए वो क्या कह रहा है कि वुड यू लाइक टू हैव द रेनबो कलर्ड बैलून्स. द चाइल्ड टर्न्ड हिज आईज फ्रॉम द फ्लाइंग बैलून्स एंड जस्ट सॉफ्ट, उसने अपनी आंखें ही दूसरी तरफ मोड़ ली। देखो, जब सुनने की आवाज़ थी, कानों के ऊपर हाथ रख लिया, अब देखने की चीज़ है तो उसने अपनी आंखें दूसरी तरफ टर्न कर ली, एंड ही जस्ट सॉफ्ट, आई वॉन्ट माई फादर, आई वॉन्ट माई मदर। The man, still trying to make the child happy, bore him to the gate where the flower seller sat. अभी भी वो कोशिश कर रहा था कि बच्चे को किसी तरीके से खुश किया जाए, उसके रोने चिल्लाने की आवाज़ बंद हो, और उसको फ्लावर सेलर के पास ले जाता है। लुक, कैन यू स्मेल दोज नाइस फ्लावर्स चाइल्ड, वुड यू लाइक ए गार्लैंड टू पुट अराउंड योर नेक। क्या अट्रैक्ट कर रहा है उसका ध्यान फूलों की तरफ, कहता कि आप स्मेल करके देखो कितनी अच्छी खुशबू है, क्या आप ये गार्लैंड डालना चाहते हो अपने गले में। द चाइल्ड turned his nose away from the basket and reiterated his sob, I want my mother, I want my father. Now see, again all the senses are told. कान बंद कर लिए, then he turned his eyes, and now the child turned his nose away from the basket and reiterated, means फिर से दोबारा उसी चीज में, reiterate means to repeat the things, his sobs, सिसकियों में चीखता हुआ कह रहा, I want my mother, I want my father. Thinking to humor his disconsolate charge by a gift of sweets, the man took him to the counter of the sweet shop. What sweets would you like, child? He asked. The child turned his face from the sweet shop and only sobbed, I want my mother, I want my father. Now, just to make him happy and content, the man took that person and this child to the sweet shop and asked him to take favorite sweets. What was his favorite sweet in the beginning? We are told about Burfi. He wanted to have a favorite sweet, Burfi. But now what did he do? He turned his face from the sweet shop and only sobbed, I want my mother, I want my father. So what we have seen after reading the story, that the child lost interest in each and everything whatever he wanted in the beginning, because now he was not along with his parents. So with this we have finished the story.